Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today's video is very exciting because I'm going to be doing something that I have had in the back of my mind for quite a while now, and finally making it happen. I'll tell you what I have on my face at the end of the video. Let's just jump right into it. Today I am doing basically coming up with color stories based on characters from Mortal Kombat. I'm going to be coming up with quads, so 4 shadows for each character. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I didn't want to get too carried away. I was like, maybe I'll do quints, and then I was like, maybe I'll do 6-pans. But just for the sake of keeping it relatively simple, I'm just doing quads for these characters. So this is going to be a new series on my channel. I don't really have a witty name for it or anything, but basically what I'm going to be doing in this series is I'm going to be coming up with color stories based on characters from different things that I like, video games, movies, whatever. Basically, I'm going to be creating fantasy palettes using shadows that I already have in my collection. The reason that I wanted to start this series off with Mortal Kombat is because Mortal Kombat has very kind of color-based characters in their roster, because when the game first came out, they had the palette swap ninjas, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Reptile. And they were all played by the same guy doing like the different poses for their characters. But he had, I don't know what color he was actually wearing. I think it was red, if I'm not mistaken. He was wearing a red outfit, and they just changed the colors based on the character. So I think that that goes really well with the concept of this series. So that's why I wanted to start it here. So in today's video, I'm just going to be doing the characters, the palette swap ninja characters from the very first game, the very first Mortal Kombat that came out in the 90s. Oh, we are accompanied by my very sleepy Squirtle today. Doesn't he look so content? I love my little Squirtle. I got him the other day. And also, I have my masks here, my Mortal Kombat masks. These are not masks that belong to any of the characters that I'm talking about today. Well, actually, technically, one of them is. You can guess which one. This is Revenant Sub-Zero. And then this is Noob Saibot. If you don't know the mythology, you might be wrong about which one is actually a mask worn by one of the characters I'm talking about today. So today we're going to be doing Scorpion. Scorpion is a fire wraith from Netherrealm. He was a human man until he and his entire clan were murdered, and now he is back for revenge, and he is seeking to take his revenge on Bihan, also known as Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero is the second character that we're going to be doing today. He is a ninja assassin from the clan called the Lin Kuei, and he also has the power to freeze things and create like freeze balls and stuff. And then the other character that we're going to be talking about today is Reptile. He is the sorcerer Shang Tsung's personal bodyguard, and he can turn invisible, and he's like not actually human, even though he looks human in the first few games, and he can like spit acid and stuff. He's cool. By the way, if you like what you see here today, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, do all that good stuff. I'm not going to ask you to do the notification bell because that sounds annoying to me. I never do that. But yeah, tell all your friends how great I am, how much fun I am. I don't know. Support me. I have 100 followers. I'd really appreciate some more. I upload every Sunday and every Wednesday to the best of my ability. I mean, I haven't slipped up so far. We're going to be doing cool, fun stuff like this on the channel in the future. So if you're into that, make sure you subscribe and you can see more stuff like this. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so the first palette swap ninja that I want to create a color story for is Scorpion. He's one of the original 3 palette swap ninjas from the very first game, and he's my childhood favorite. I want to start by looking at my Beauty Bay palettes. I don't have a ton of palettes that have yellow in them. Actually, I was kind of freaking out about how I was going to put together his color story the other night because in my head, I don't really have a ton of yellow palettes, but I do have a lot of yellows in palettes, you know what I mean? I just don't have any yellow-centric palettes. But I was actually pretty surprised by how many yellows I actually have in my collection when I went looking for them. But I want to start with a matte yellow that resembles his, whatever you want to call it, his like tunic or whatever. I'm going to take swatches of Canary and what is this one? Sunflower from the Bright 2 palette from Beauty Bay. I'm just going to put them on the back of my hand. Those are both very nice. I think this one's a little bit closer to what his actual outfit looked like, at least in the first game, but this one's really nice too. I'm also going to go into the Fiery 2.0 palette, and I'm going to swatch Sherbet and Daffodil. Those are also really nice. Ooh, I feel so undecided. Okay, let me look at some others first before I decide. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to go into the Nikki Tutorials palette, and I'm going to swatch the shade VLA. That one? I mean, that one's really nice too. Honestly, I think my favorite ones right now are these two. Those are the ones that I'm leaning towards. Now I want to look at my Natasha Denona palettes, because I have a few Natasha Denona palettes that have nice yellows in them. First I want to look at this one. This is Sunset. This shade right here, what is this one called? Sol, like the sun, S-O-L. I gotta wipe my hand off, but I'm gonna swatch that one. You know what, I'm actually gonna put the Natasha Denona ones on the back of this hand. I mean, that's really nice too. It's very similar to this one. What do you think? The other palette that I wanted to dip into from Natasha Denona for yellows was this one. Though I will say these are more kind of orange leaning. I'm going to take Citrine and Chameleon, which is this one. I'm going to swatch these. Yeah, so Chameleon is definitely more orange. And Citrine, it's just like a tiny bit more orange than, what was it, Sol? I mean, these all could work. Okay, I'm going to decide on the matte after I've kind of figured out what shimmer I want to use. So just bear with me. For the shimmers, I was thinking I was probably going to go with something a little more kind of red and orangey. And then if I can find one, I would love to do like a true yellow shimmer, but I don't think I have one in my entire collection. So let's take a quick look. I wanted to look again at this palette. This shade up top here. And then this one here. These are both very beautiful, fiery shimmers. How beautiful are those? Honestly, I feel like both of these could go in this fantasy palette for Scorpion, because they're both very fiery. This one, it's not the most intense shift, but it does shift to like a kind of more like this shade. So it's like a red base with that shift to like the orangey yellow. If I'm only picking 4 shades, this is difficult because I kind of just want to use both of these for the shimmers. I just went through and swatched a whole bunch of yellow shimmers from my collection. Like there's these here, this one's like super light. And honestly, like, I don't know what will go best in this color story. This one is a Natasha Denona shadow, and even though it's not the most intense, I feel like it will go pretty well. This one here, this like, I mean, it definitely leans a bit more gold, but that one is actually from the BH Scorpion Sting palette. It's this one down here. I think that one looks really, really nice, but I don't know. I'm super undecided. I'm gonna say, let's go with, oh, this is super difficult. You know what? I'm just gonna go with my original instinct. I'm gonna say both of these. I'm going to put both of these in the palette. Again, both of those shades are from the same palette. They're from the Natasha Denona Sunset palette. I'm just going to swatch them on my arm since I've officially decided that we are using them. So all of my official decisions for my color story are going to go right on my arm. Let me know though, do you think that that's the right decision? Do you think that that looks like Scorpion? Just wait though. Wait until I get the other two shadows. I'm going to do two mattes to finish this off. And then you can tell me what you think. I'm thinking of what his actual costume looks like in the games. I mean, both of these kind of represent it really nicely. But what goes best with these shades? That's the real question. I think the deeper one, the like slightly, because this one here is a little too light. I think I'm going to go with this one. So this is the color story so far. Now we need to deepen it up. I'm going to actually take a couple of swatches from Fiery 2.0. I'm going to take these two. They're not the deepest, but I just want to look at them in comparison to the other colors in this color story. I think this is too similar. And then this, ooh, that goes nicely with the, wow, it's like almost the same shade as the shimmer. That's really cool. Okay, we'll keep that one in mind. What's the name of this one? That one is Turmeric. I'm also gonna just take, you know what, I'm gonna take Taxi and Mustard from Bright 2.0. Oh, I totally wiped those other two shades off of my fingers instead of swatching them on the back of my hand. These ones are nice too. They're also very complementary to this color story. You know what, let me swatch them on the back of my hand. Wow, they go on so nicely. Oh, look at that. And then let me go back and swatch Turmeric from Fiery 2.0. Put that on the back of my hand. It's quite similar actually to this one. What was the name of that one? Was that one Taxi or? Yeah, Taxi. It's similar to Taxi. So my thinking is, these are nice, but are they deep enough to like make this work? I'm not sure. I don't want to just go in with a brown. I want it to still feel very fiery and yellow, and I want it to feel like Scorpion, right? I want to swatch some of the orangey mattes in this palette. Okay, so this one is very brown, so I don't think we're going to use that one. And then this one, honestly, the only one that I'm really vibing with is this one. Why do I feel like you can't see the true color? But I'm not sure. Let me swatch it next to the other ones. Okay. Okay, so that is really nice. I think it's a bit deeper, and it's more kind of orange than yellow, like compared to that one. I want to do one more Natasha Denona shade. I'm going to take Chameleon. We did this one before, right? Actually, you know what? You know what? Screw that. We're not going to do Chameleon. I'm going to take Jasper. We saw Chameleon before. It's a little on the lighter side. Ooh. Jasper is nice, though. Is it too red? Is it too orange? I mean, maybe. We want this to feel like Scorpion, right? In terms of really feeling like a Scorpion palette, I feel like this one kind of goes the best. But I'm still, I don't know, I'm unsure. I don't know if that's the right depth. Okay, so this is funny. I just went into Trio Chrome from Natasha Denona, and I was thinking like, oh, that doesn't really go that deep. But I swatched this shade here, this one called Plutonium, and that's what it looks like. And it looks so much like this one from the other palette. Gosh, which oh, Bright 2.0. I think that was Mustard, right? I think that was what it was called. You know what? I think I'm really leaning towards this bottom shade from the Sunrise palette. Jasper. I think I might be going with that because it kind of has a similar vibe to these other colors, but it's just deeper, and I just want this color story to have depth. You know what I mean? Like, you can do as much yellow as you want with that top shade, but in order for it to really go with these other the shimmers, and in order for it to have good depth, I think Jasper is the best option. So I'm gonna put that one in the palette. And there it is. There's my Scorpion palette. What do you think of that? I kind of wish that it was more yellow, but I just don't own a ton of yellow. And also, it's hard to go deep with yellow without it just turning into like a dark orange or a brown. So I feel like going with these more fiery shades was the best possible option for our buddy Hanzo Hasashi, the Fire Wraith. Okay, now on to the next character. We're going to be doing Sub-Zero. I'm going to do a different color story later on for the second Sub-Zero, because they are technically two different characters. Not to be a nerd, but the first Sub-Zero is Bihan, he's the older brother, and then the second one is Kuai Liang, and he's the younger brother. And they have very distinctly different characteristics and personalities, and I feel like they should have different color stories. So the first Sub-Zero, the one that you see in the first game, is not a very nice guy. He's a bit of a son of a bitch. He's actually the reason that our buddy Scorpion is dead, and a fire wraith enslaved by Quan Chi of the Netherrealm. Not to be a nerd or anything, but... So for his color story, I want some pretty intense, rich blues, and I feel like this palette from BH really has that going on, so I'm going to swatch some of these. There's a strong possibility that I could use both of those in this palette. I want to swatch a few of the shimmers in this palette as well. That's nice. Before I go crazy opening up all of my monochromatic palettes, I want to go into this Natasha Denona palette, Circo Loco, because I'm kind of obsessed with the blues in this palette. I'm gonna just take this one though, this one called Electric. I feel like because I want this color story to be a little bit more of a rich blue color story, I'm gonna keep the lighter blues for the other blue characters. Do you see this? I love this shadow. This is from the Natasha Denona palette. We're gonna use that. I've decided. We're gonna use that in the color story. Oh, this is gonna be hard to show you, but here's the first shade for the Bihan palette. I just had to go wash my hands because they were completely just horrible. Also, has anyone noticed that I'm like completely covered in glittery fallout? I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but it's even in like my hair. Like, what the hell? It's all Pat McGrath's fault. But anyway, I want to go into this one, Blue Moon. This one also has some gorgeous shadows in it. Some deep blues. Ooh, this one's really nice. This one called Clued In. It's almost like black. Wow, Clued In is definitely a nice one, especially because it looks like if you build it up a little, you can make it even deeper. Like I'm just kind of patting more on over the swatch that I just did. Yeah, that's really nice. I'm gonna do the same thing with the other one. Just build it up a little bit. Those are really beautiful. Wow. Ooh. Do I like those better? I washed off the other swatches. I shouldn't have done that. But do I like those better, or do I like the ones in the BH palette? I feel like this is going to be a difficult decision because I feel like the one in the ColourPop palette gives off more of like a darker vibe, which is kind of what I'm going for. But this one from the BH palette is more like true, like maybe not true blue, but like it just shows up with a little bit more blue, whereas this one, comparatively at least, almost leans like kind of gray, at least by comparison. Like it's still very blue, but compared to the other one, look at this line of light coming from my window. Goodness gracious. But that's rough. That's gonna be a toss-up. I also want a lighter shimmer. I'm gonna swatch this middle shade, Billie Jean, that one on the bottom there. I don't know how well that goes with the other shimmer. It goes nice with those mattes though. I'm going to take this one called Blizzard Blackout from the BH palette, and I'm going to swatch that one as well. So that's that one there. Oh, I really like that. Oh, I might go with that. It's like icy too, which is kind of what I'm going for. That's what I wanted from like a light blue. I don't want it to be too light because I'm sticking with this darker color story for the darker Sub-Zero. But yeah, I really like that. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to pull out one more monochromatic palette for this. I don't want to go too nuts, but I just want to look at this lower part of the Midnight palette from Beauty Bay. This palette is wild. Damn, that shade is called Midnight. Look at that. Like, compared to the other ones, this one really is almost a black. I honestly think I might use this one. This one here is called Twilight. It's kind of, oh, you know what? It's even darker than the one from the BH palette. It's kind of similar actually to the one from the ColourPop palette. Okay, just a couple more blues to consider. This one is Cerulean and this one is Denim. I mean, they're all pretty similar, right? Like, I think I'm just gonna have to make a decision. I think I'm gonna go with this shimmer from the BH palette, this matte from the ColourPop palette, and I think I'm gonna do this one, the Midnight one from Beauty Bay. I'm such a mess right now, like I can't even believe it. Like look at that. It's like on my pants and stuff. I got it on, it's everywhere. I completely forgot to mention, by the way, that the name of the BH palette is Sub-Zero. So like, you could just say that this is the Sub-Zero palette. But the final color story for our Sub-Zero quad is, God, this is so hard to show. This is the color story. I'm gonna take pictures when I'm done, so it'll be a little bit easier to see. But there it is. That's our Sub-Zero quad, or our Bihan quad to be more specific. The final palette swap ninja from the very first game is our buddy Reptile. He is the green ninja, so let me grab some of my green palettes. Let's actually start with BH this time because look at this palette. So I don't want to go too hardcore green with him. I'm definitely going to do at least 2 really green greens, but I want to switch it up. I don't want him to be super monochromatic. I actually think I'm going to throw a multi-chrome in this palette. Now, of course, if this was a real collection, you couldn't just like randomly have a multi-chrome in one of the quads because then it would have to cost more than the other ones. Or you could make them all cost the same amount as the most expensive one, and then people would be like, why am I spending all this money on just regular mattes and shimmers? So realistically, that wouldn't really work for a whole collection, just randomly having multi-chromes in some of the palettes, but that's how I'm going to do this, you know, for my own purposes. So anyway, let's start with this. I'm going to swatch Nutty, which is this green here. And I guess I'll swatch Cone or Cup, because I am going to need a nice dark green. Okay, I mean, those are cool. I'm not sold. I don't necessarily see Reptile when I look at these, but let's swatch some more things. This is the Absinthe palette. This one is gorgeous, and I kind of want to swatch the matte green right there, called Trippy. I don't know how I feel about that. It might be a little bit too limey, in my opinion. Let's actually switch it up and go into the Hella palette. I'm going to swatch Ouroboros. It's a deep green, but we're going to need some deep green for this palette. That's beautiful. I mean, don't look at my messy hand. Wow, that's really nice. Oh, there is a strong possibility that that's going in the palette. I really like that. Let's go into this monochromatic palette called Earthy from Beauty Bay. Ooh, let's try that. This one is called Pine. Okay, so that's more like it. This is definitely the kind of color that I think of for Reptile. What do you think? I think it's pretty good. We might be using that one. I'm not 100% decided yet, but we might be using that one. Let's actually look at shimmers. Actually, hold on. Before we go into shimmers, I want to swatch this sort of, what would you consider this? Like a khaki green or an olivey green or whatever green? I'm thinking of maybe putting something like that in the palette as well. But let's look at shimmers. I actually want to do a multi-chrome in this palette, like I said. So I'm going to pull out my Danessa Myrix and my Lethal multi-chromes. Just to clarify, there is an actual lore reason why I want to see a multi-chrome in this Reptile palette. And it's actually, I mean, the character is able to turn invisible. So he has, I mean, I don't know exactly what the lore behind how he turns invisible is, but I feel like a multi-chrome will kind of represent his sort of chameleon capabilities. Those are both gorgeous, really, really nice. I don't know what will go best with any of these. Wow. Imagine 2 multi-chromes. Should I do 2 multi-chromes in this palette? Really, really nice. So those are Escapism and Zen. This palette is such a mess, oh my gosh. Okay, so this is one of the Lethal multi-chromes. I don't know the names of the Lethal multi-chromes, because they don't have names on the palettes. But that's a Lethal multi-chrome. Let me make sure I got the true color out of that, because I think I swatched it with the same finger that I swatched the other shadow without actually washing the other shadow off. So I'm just going to swatch that one more time. Okay, yeah, I got it. I got the true color. It is very similar, though, to the one from the Danessa Myrix palette. There's one other shadow from Lethal that I want to try. It's this one here. This one shifts very, like, pink. It's kind of more... yeah. But, I mean, it does have green, but green isn't, like, the primary shade here. I'm really tempted to just go completely crazy and put 2 multi-chromes in this palette. I mean, this is just like a fantasy thing, right? Can I just put the 2 multi-chromes? I might. Let's look again at the mattes. I mean, I'm definitely leaning towards like this down here. I think that's going to be the main like matte color for this palette. And then do I want this kind of khaki one? Does that kind of go with the multi-chromes? I feel like if I do the one from the Hella palette, even though I do love that, it will make the whole thing kind of become a little bit too forest green, and I'm looking for something kind of reptilian. If I'm going to use both of these multi-chromes from the Danessa Myrix palette, I think I'm going to do this and this. How do we feel about that? I mean, and there you have it. It's hard to show you on this part of my arm, but there is the color story for Reptile. It's 2 multi-chromes from Danessa Myrix and 2 mattes from Beauty Bay. Pretty cool, right? I think that works for him. I think that suits his character. And I'm trying to like show you the shift. It's like I'm gonna like twist my arm off. And then so this is the full, you know, 3 quads if you want to look at it that way, or if you want to think of it as like one giant palette, one 16 pan palette. 16? No. 12? 3 quads, 3 times 4, 12. If you want to think of it as a 12-pan palette, you could do that too. But yeah, I mean, obviously I cheated a little putting multi-chromes in just one of the quads, because like I was saying before, that wouldn't really work if this was like a real collection, but just for lore reasons, I felt like that worked. I'll probably be putting multi-chromes in other palettes later on in this series as well, so just anticipate that. I feel like this one down here doesn't necessarily have a great inner corner shade. Like you could do, for the Sub-Zero one, you could do that one as an inner corner. And then for the Scorpion one, you could even use that in the inner corner. There's like options and like a range of depth. This one, yes, it has this mid-tone green and then this kind of deeper khaki green. But then for shimmers, it's just the multi-chromes, so it's a little less variety in that way. So that is it. That is all the color stories. Tell me what you think of them. Tell me how you would change them. Tell me what you would do. Or do you think that they're perfect? Do you think that they match the characters? Also, tell me what you think of this series in general, because I'm definitely looking forward to doing more videos like this. I think that this is super duper fun. I think that this is a fun way to get a little nerdy on the channel. I think that this is a fun way to, you know, dig out my makeup, do different things with it. You know, it doesn't always have to be about putting it on my face. It can just be playing with it, coming up with color stories, you know? It's just color. It's just, you know, it's supposed to be fun. Also, tell me which of these 3 color stories is your favorite, if you have a favorite, or, you know, if you just hate them all. Would you buy any of these? Would you, you know, tweak them if you had the option? I don't know. What would you do? In the future, I'm definitely going to be doing more things, you know, in this vein. I'm going to be doing more of this series. Like, this is... I'm going to be doing more Mortal Kombat characters. I only had time to do these 3 today. My original thought was to do all of the palette swap ninjas from all of the first 3 games. That would have taken eons. So I changed it. I decided to just do the first 3. We'll be doing the characters from the second game in the near future. If you want to know what I'm wearing on my face, I am wearing the Utopian Dream palette from Pat McGrath again. I'm also wearing a blush, what is it called? I don't remember what it's called, but it's from Odin's Eye. But yeah, that's what I'm wearing on my cheeks. I have my Fenty lip gloss on, my favorite one. It's discontinued, you can't get it anymore, but it's called Candy Milk. Anyway, that's the video. I will be seeing you guys on Wednesday. Hope that you enjoyed, and have a great week. Or, you know, great week up until Wednesday. Or whatever. Okay, bye.